guys, Jungle Fix back with another video on the importance of camouflage. So, a lot of people might not necessarily know exactly what kind of camouflage suits their environment, unless they're, say, a hunter, or they have prior experience, or maybe even if you're a Leo, you might have some good camouflage equipment. However, the camouflage that suits your environment most is not necessarily what looks the coolest, or even necessarily what the military uses at that current time. For instance, if you guys remember just a few years back, the Army was using a lot of that UCP out in the desert, and well, it made them look like a big gray splotch on the horizon. And well, that's kind of why they chose not to use it anymore after a couple of years. So if you live in a desert environment like, say, Arizona, South Texas, or if you're in Djibouti or something like that, you might want to go with something that's like this. Desert Marpat. Now, this is mine from way back in the day. It's got a lot of stains on it from paint or what have you. But this stuff works very good out in the desert. Things like chocolate chip or the desert equivalent of M81 also work very good for the desert environments. Even during the winter months, if say you can't find winter camouflage in basically any environment, desert clothes like this will work wonders. It's definitely better than nothing, especially if it sun fades a little bit, because this more or less turns into a white and a coyote brown. Coyote tan, sorry. But yeah, very good for desert environments, Desert Marpat. You can usually pick up stuff like this for maybe about $60 to $70 for a good set of trousers and tops. If you need a good all-around camouflage for, say, temperate environments or just general woodland camouflage, what I recommend is something like this. Multicam. Now, some of you may think, well, wait, hey, didn't he just say not to use the latest and greatest stuff because just because the military uses it? And yes, I did say that. However, Multicam is actually very, very good for temperate environments like, say, the middle of the U.S., East Coast, West Coast, things like that, where there's a lot of vegetation, but it's not necessarily super green. This will also work decently in a desert environment, although it's not what I would go with. However, on the upside, these are very, very common. Downside is, unfortunately, since it's so sought after by a lot of people because it's basically the new hotness, is these are usually the most expensive piece for this camouflage, I mean. Yeah, usually these will run you anywhere from, say, I don't know, $80 to $90 for a good set. However, a good alternative, and not a lot of people think about this, is especially if your vegetation is not super sparse, but it's very green, is this. M81 Woodland. A lot of guys deployed to Iraq back in the day with this during the desert, and it's not super good there. It's probably serviceable in some areas, but not great for the desert. However, during the fall to summer season, and even spring, this works super good for blending into vegetation pretty much anywhere. It's a little on the darker side, especially if you have it kind of new or if it's stained with a lot of stuff. But for temperate environments, M81 is a good cost-effective choice. It's definitely a lot cheaper than Multicam or some of the other stuff like that. The other thing is things that are even more vintage or foreign, like this. This is what people would call, I believe, the raindrop pattern from East Germany. Now you may think, well, that looks kind of silly, it's just straight lines. Which, true, it looks a little funny, but there's a reason they chose this, and it's because as long as your shape and figure is broken up by the camouflage, it is doing its job. That's what I tell people. But yeah, this, super cheap. I bought this in a store for, I think, $10 for the shirt. And it's relatively comfortable. You can even wear this out in public and no one really bats an eye. And it works really good in the fall months when vegetation is getting a little more gray, but you know, it's still there, obviously. Other foreign camos you can look into is, say, something like the current Swede camo. Very, very good for tropical environments or where vegetation is very, very green. Weapon-wise, Matching your weapon to your environment is key. Something like this is perfect for where I live. It's got a nice mix of green and brown. Decently good for urban environments, but definitely better for wooded environments. Obviously, you want to use a good can of spray paint, not the cheapest thing you can find out there. Rust-Oleum is really good, but what I found works even better is Krylon. Krylon paint, even if you might pay a little more for it, seems to last a lot longer on a lot of the weapons I use it on. But yeah, normally, if you want to paint your weapon, you don't necessarily do it in a super complex pattern, just more or less slanted stripes like this. If you can see that on the camera, works super well. And when I test this and I say put it in a bush, or I have a friend move around with it out in the wilderness, very, very hard to spot. Having an all black or say an all tan weapon definitely hinders your ability to stay hidden. A lot of people kind of miss out on that. There's not a lot to it. Painting a weapon is actually much easier than it looks. All you need is to set aside, say, a couple hours, and you can get a weapon painted pretty dang easy. If you wanted to go a little more complex, you can always do something like this. I did not do this myself, to be quite honest. A buddy helped me with this pattern. It's basically like a woodland tiger stripe. How he did this, I can probably show you guys another video down the line if you want it. But how he did this is he used a lot of tape and a lot of patience and a lot of time. But yeah, very, very good for woodland environments. Surprisingly good for urban environments too, because it really helps break up that shape, especially on the receiver and the stock, where a lot of the mass is basically that's not being broken up, like say the handguard. Another thing you could use is one of these. Sniper shroud. I bought one of these from the store. I think it was about $8. And the cool thing about sniper shrouds is, yes, they are clothing, but you can also paint them. This one, if you can tell, was originally tan when I got it, but we used it to pattern some stuff for painting, and well, it gave it its own nice little green color. So I could wear this if, say, I had to hold a static position of some kind, or I was expected to hold a post. I can wrap this, not this sloppy obviously, but I can wrap this over myself like that, and it'll help keep the cold off a little bit, but most importantly it helps break up the shape of your head. Obviously you're probably going to want to paint it unless you find, say, the perfect pattern that already is on it, like say Multicam or tiger stripe. I think I've seen one of those times. Flat colors also work decently well, like say coyote brown or just straight OD green. They work decently well, but a lot of people I know don't really necessarily want to just wear straight colors. So those work decently well, and you can also wear those out in public and you don't catch like weird looks. But that is a possibility, just so you can consider that. Alright guys, thank you for watching the video. Have a good one.